Well, clearly this is part 2, because part 1 didn't finish. I just kept talking. I came back online within probably 45 seconds. This is Ask Nurse Cindy. Part 2, common keto questions. Can I do this diet if I have fatty liver disease? If I've been told I have fatty liver disease. So I was doing it and my internet connection cut off. So I kept talking when it came back on, thinking it was going to keep going, but it did not. So I just finished listening to myself. I cut off when I was talking about that I'm in the car and my husband's in, and here he comes out now, so you'll hear the car start back up. But can I do the ketogenic eating plan if I have fatty liver disease? So I was starting to explain to you what fatty liver disease is, and it's the most common liver. Hi, honey, I'm on a live Facebook, so while you are loading the car up, it looks more than romaine and avocados. He got some other stuff. Anyway, so greater than 5% of your liver volume is now taken up by fat. And so what that means is that the liver is no longer functioning as it should. And about 30% of us Americans have it. And if you're obese, about 50% of you have the beginnings of it. And then if you're obese and diabetic, data shows that you probably in the 80% range of having fatty liver disease. Now, is that immediately life-threatening? No. Is it something that we want to address? Absolutely, because it can progress from just fatty liver disease, which starts at 5% of the volume being fat, and then it can grow into it being inflamed, and then you can have a fibrotic response where the liver fibroses and it's really not functioning as it should at all, and then it can actually lead to liver failure. It's the most common reason for liver transplantation in the U.S. currently, and it is a result of our dietary changes we've adopted over the last 50 years, where we're taking in way too many carbohydrates than we were ever as a species ever designed to be able to manage well. If you look at our rates of obesity and diabetes, it has skyrocketed with our fear of fat. So can I do this ketogenic, can I do, if I have fatty liver disease, can I do this? I think it's probably one of the best ways to manage it. There's not a single FDA cleared drug to treat this disease. Doctors will tell you, no matter which one you listen to, that you manage it by losing weight and adopting more exercise and just managing it that way. So let's think about what happens is that when the liver receives fructose or alcohol, like from gin or rum or whatever, your wine, those two have to be directly processed within the liver. When we are dealing with regular glucose from carbohydrates, then the pancreas releases insulin. When the insulin comes out of the pancreas, it's coming out for an express purpose, and that would be to take the glucose in the bloodstream and to push it into the liver if it needs glycogen. It will put it into the muscles if the muscles need glycogen, but anything left over is stored in the fat cells. And if you listen to Dr. Jason Fung, what he really feels like is that our fat stores get to the point that they cannot handle it anymore. And so they literally have expanded to the point that they're not having good blood supply. They become inflamed and they can actually start to re-release insulin. It's an oversupply of fat, and so this fat starts coming back out. And what happens is the liver and the body are really wanting to try everything they can to maintain a normal blood sugar. So what it'll do is it'll start stuffing fat in places other than our adipose or subcutaneous tissue. It'll stuff fat in, my husband's driving, so if you see me jerk around, that's why it's a very busy parking lot here. So what'll happen is the body will put it where it can. It'll put it into your viscera, which means the organs inside your abdominal cavity. You'll get abdominal fat stores. You'll have a very, your abdomen will get quite large compared to the rest of your body. And it will actually store it inside of the organs, inside the pancreas, inside the liver. And this causes problems. It's not going to hum along like a well-oiled machine. It's going to start to have problems. So as we think through that, if you're overweight and diabetic, you have a very high likelihood that it's just not been diagnosed yet. If your liver enzymes have been elevated on a lab test, it's very highly likely that you are, that was a speed bump right there, that you are suffering from the beginnings or some stage of fatty liver disease, NAFLD, NAFLD, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. A couple of things I'd recommend. For sure, you don't want to be drinking if you've been told you have that. I'm sorry about that, but that's going to be the best response for you, and we're going over quite a few speed bumps, so this is fun. And then we are, and then we don't want you to eat any, I would really restrict your fruit. Now, it's absolutely already restricted if you've chosen a low carbohydrate eating plan or a ketogenic eating plan, but it's especially important now because what we want to do is we want to think through what your body's going to do if you lower your carbs. If you lower your carbs, then insulin is not forced out of the pancreas. Insulin is a bully. Rachel D., my daughter, and I talk about this a lot. Insulin's a bully in the sense that in the presence of elevated insulin. So I eat carbs, my insulin comes up, and as long as that insulin is elevated, its main job is to push that glucose out of the bloodstream where it's stored as fat. You cannot release fat in the presence of insulin. It's almost impossible. Rachel did a video the other day about being type 1 diabetic on an insulin pump and how hard it is to lose weight when you're taking insulin. So when you reduce your carbohydrates, you reduce your insulin. She's reduced her insulin she injects. Your body will reduce the production of insulin if you do a low carbohydrate eating plan. So what's the body going to do? The body's going to say, oh my, no carbohydrates. Oh great, I've stored it here in the fat. I've stored fat in my liver. I've stored it in my hips. And hopefully your body's going to start to take it where it really needs to come out of first. It's going to take it out of the liver. So if you're saying, well, I'm not really losing much weight and my measurements aren't changing, my guess, if you've been overweight for a while, and especially if you're like me and you're over the age of 60, you are going to just have to be patient. And I know it's hard. I know we want a magic fix. We want, even though it took us years and decades to put this weight on, we want to have it come off in a month or two. Don't compare yourself to somebody 25 years old who gained weight after, and I'm not discounting that, but if you are double that age, you are not going to lose at the same rate. You're really not. But be patient because your liver is most likely saying, oh, I was on the verge of being 10% fat, or I was on the verge of going into fibrosis, and you are saving your liver by letting the fat be taken out of it. I know that sounds dramatic and a big statement, but honestly, ladies and gentlemen, drop your carbohydrates so your insulin goes down. When your insulin goes down, then you're able to release the fat stores, and the liver is going to hopefully prefer to release the fat from itself first because its goal is to save itself. It really wants to save you, and it wants to save itself. So the fat stores should start to go down. And as you become keto adapted, meaning that the ketones are a byproduct of fat metabolism. As the fat is released, those triglycerides and the glycerol that have been stored in our fat cells from overeating sugar or carbohydrates is going to break open, and the byproduct, the leftover, are the ketone bodies, and that's what our body uses as fuel. It takes about a month to become keto adapted. It can take up to a year before all of your cravings disappear. My son-in-law Justin and I joke that every now and then you'll get this weird craving, and it's like out of the blue, and you're like, where in the world did that come from? And his joke is that the little Debbie's chemicals got released from a certain fat cell that decided to re-release, and it made you crave it. And there could be something to be said for that. But back to our non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. It is absolutely probably one of your best. Kim Hoover, who's one of my regulars, and Kim, I hope you're doing well. Her husband, Jeff, just had some amazing results, both in his A1C, I believe, and his liver enzymes are back down to normal. So I hear from many of you. I'm almost at 28,000 followers. Who would have thought that, right? From my studio and in various cars, that you guys would feel compelled to share. But I hope that you research fatty liver disease if you have it. I hope you realize that it's something that we can only treat with diet and lifestyle changes at this point. And that's fine, because if we drop our carbs, and I'm talking eating whole foods, I'm not talking about eating bad stuff. We're eating food that comes out of the ground, above the ground. So that would be your green leafy vegetables, good healthy fats like olive oil and coconut oil, moderate amounts of good protein. Do the best you can for where you're at. Progress over perfection. This is worth it. It's worth it for the long haul. It's worth it to be vital and to be sassy as you get older, and to feel good inside and out. So if you've been told you have fatty liver disease, I don't think, if you go in and you try to explain ketogenic to your doctor, they may or may not get it. But if you say, I've gone to more of a plant-based, green leafy vegetable, moderate amounts of protein, whole foods, there's not anybody that's going to say, no, I'd really rather you eat a food that has 20 ingredients. Ladies and gentlemen, if you can't pronounce it, it should not be in your body. All right, so if it has a label on it and there's more than 2 or 3 things on that label, chances are that's not the best choice for you. So lots of stuff out on the internet. Go to some trustworthy sources. Dr. Eric Westman from Duke, Dr. Adam Nally from the Phoenix area, and then we have Dr. Stephen Finney, we have Dr. Jeffrey Volek. Those are all people. Dr. Jason Fung did already say that. Those are all great sources. Another great place would be to go to dietdoctor.com, RachelD.com. You can go to Keto Kaleidoscope Facebook page, my brother Steve Davis's Facebook page. Lots of ways for you guys to get informed self-care. Start to take control of your health. You can do it. We don't need those dang carbs. Oh my gosh, we were never meant to have 20 choices of apples. We were never meant to be able to go through a drive-through and get 1,700 calories. This is us going into my driveway. 1,700 calories in a single meal that's just laden with carbohydrates and preservatives and added sugars, so you're addicted and blah, 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 blah. So can you do this if you've got fatty liver disease? I personally can't think of a better way of eating, because as you lower your carbs, you're going to reduce your insulin load. In the absence of high insulin, we can release fat, and the liver is going to say, I've been storing this stuff here. It was getting very crowded here, and I'm happy to let this fat go. So you guys have a great day. Sorry for the interruption on the earlier version. I still don't have my glasses, so I can't read anything, but you guys take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.